Hey, here we are again. Hey, so I'm just exporting the file that I made. Looks really good. I tried to do a voiceover, it didn't work, but that's the snafus of behind the scenes. I'll talk it, and then in post production it'll be really tight, really tight. Let me see what's going on with my corner here. Hang on. So if I go right like that. Okay, I got my corner. Okay, I just tilted my, so I've got this here. Let's see if I pull all that. Let's do this here.
I can't really hold things up because with the background screen, it won't register it. I'd have to
That's okay.
eliminate a background in order to.
It's all good. I actually have.
Okay.
Let's see what is going on here. It's right here. That's my drink. Okay. I don't mind my little corner. I'm just trying to organize things. So, okay, there's our intro. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I am going to boom, come back to Zoom. And are we recording? We're recording. Okay, perfect. Okay. So I'm in the shot. Let me see if I can um allow. Yes. Okay. You may. Okay. So we're going to um let's see here. I'm going to adjust my color here. Okay, so I'm going to adjust my brightness. There we go. Okay, so if we go gamma, no, gamma the other way. No, 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 no. Okay, gamma up, gamma up. Okay, so what if I do gamma right there and if I put my light on? Okay, I just don't like my glasses to be all with my light on in there. But you know what? I'll let it happen. Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, that's good enough. Okay. So we got that. We got our background and we got me. And then I'm going to get rid of my scroller. Boom. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of my scroller there. And okay, so I'm going to get rid of my scroller. We've got that. We've got that. And we are going to share screen here and optimize my sound and then go boom, recording. Okay. Share my screen. Okay. So we're going to put that over there. We're going to, do you like that photo I made last night?
That's cool.
It's fucking really cool. Oh my God. I just was having a blast. I didn't even smoke anything. I just made this photo and it's really cool in color too. Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Eichen here, and we're going to get right into this. Great Gottlieb-Walker, The Legends of Photography. Thank you so much, everybody. And let's get right into it with Kim, everybody. Here we are. I got it. How was that?
Yeah, it was cool.
That was pretty good. Well, it's really great to reunite with you, Kim, and to see the success that we're all having. Um, when I ask some people, "What's your legend?" and they'll tell me their children, um, but us photographers, we birth our photographs, correct?
Well, we're historians. Our work is essential. Um, it kind of distresses me that now any photo can be manipulated or created out of nothing. But what we did was documenting what was actually happening and the world as it was. So I think we're very valuable historians.
So let's get into this a little bit and go backwards just a little bit. Introduce yourself and tell us about the early days a little bit. Let's just start when you were a child and who handed you the first camera. But tell us your name and your serial number and your rank and how long you've been at it.
My name is Kim Gottlieb-Walker. I was a professional photographer for 50 years. Um, my parents were both very much into photography. My mother worked for a portrait photographer in New York before she got married and did lovely portraits of all of her family members and of my dad when she was engaged to him. And my dad had a big old speed graphic giant camera that he used to take my baby pictures. And so they both really appreciated photography. And it was my mother who taught me about light. That photography is just light and dark, and it's one of the reasons why black and white photography is so important, particularly for beginning photographers, because with black and white you have to be looking at the way the light is reflecting off your subject, because that's what makes your picture. Color, a good color picture can be turned into a good black and white picture if you've paid attention to the light and the way the light is reflecting off your subject.
I was shared by the masters that we see things in color every day, so it's kind of the postcard of photography. But there is beautiful, beautiful color photography. But they said that black and white shows, like you said, the essence of the light, and it's more dramatic.
And also when I was first shooting, I couldn't afford color film. So the vast majority of my work was black and white because that's what I could afford. And also,
Kodachrome, show us the nice bright colors.
I learned to make every shot count. I'm not a person who would shoot the way a lot of people are shooting digitally today, 100 frames of the same thing and hope that one of them is really good. I
With
would wait.
rapid fire motor drive.
Yeah, no, I would wait for a moment that I felt was
Did,
significant.
did you ever have one of those Mickey Mouse ears with the 100-foot roll of film in it? I had an SRT 101, and my first concert was the Beach Boys, and I got to take that there with my Vivitar Series 1, 70 to 210, and that was my first concert. What was your first concert?
Oh, I don't remember. I shot so many, and I don't hear anything when I'm shooting.
Well, but what was your first concert you went to as a child before you ever even did photography?
Uh, Going to the ballet when I was 5 years old.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay. It was very classic. Well, tell us a little bit more about the early days. Tell us about what was your first camera and who gave it to you?
Well, my first camera was just a little box brownie camera that I used to take pictures of my little brothers. Um, but then when I went off to college, my mother gave me her little fixed lens 35mm camera. I don't even remember what kind it was. Um, and that's what I used to shoot the free speech movement, which happened in my freshman year. And that was my first taste of journalistic shooting. And I loved it. And there was only one class at Berkeley on film at all. It was um, about newly released films and reviewing them and stuff. But I loved it so much, I decided to transfer down to UCLA and major in motion picture production. And while I was at UCLA, every time there was a guest on campus, I would photograph them so that that gave me pictures of Shirley Chisholm, the first Black Congresswoman, and Daniel Ellsberg, who leaked the Pentagon Papers and helped end the Vietnam War, and Dr. Spock. They all appeared at UCLA, and I photographed them there. And then my teacher at UCLA was a legendary fellow named Bill Kirby, who was the original person to wear American flag shirts.
All
And
right.
he ran a light show on the side for local bands like the Doors, and sometimes I would help with that. And he used to take me along when he'd do interviews for the Underground Press, and I'd shoot the stills for that. And one of the people I photographed was Jimi Hendrix during one of those interviews.
Did you know, was Jimmy famous at that time, or
No,
was?
he hadn't appeared. He hadn't appeared in California yet. He'd been a success in England, but
Mhm.
he was going to be appearing at the Shrine Auditorium the following weekend after
Was
the
that
interview.
70 or 71?
That was 67.
67, everybody.
Yeah.
Wow, that's what, 50, 60 years ago.
And I had just turned 20, and the pictures are pretty unique because they're sort of personal pictures as opposed to performance pictures. And I didn't know he was flirting with me till I read it in a book several years later. but those were the among the first interview pictures I did. And working with the Underground Press after I graduated, I got to shoot Andy Warhol as well. We did an interview at the Polo Lounge in Beverly Hills, which has nice natural light, fortunately. And I sat across the table from him with the camera up to my face, waiting for any change of expression, because everybody has seen the same Andy Warhol photo.
Right.
So I waited long enough that one of his friends who was with him, I believe it was Sylvia Miles, said something that amused him, and I will show you that shot.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Have you seen him? Have you seen Andy Warhol smiling before?
He was he was pretty straight faced. Yeah.
Yeah, so it took a long time just waiting with the camera up to my face to get that picture.
What was your favorite camera during that time? Was it a Nickermat, or what did you have? What did you shoot
I
with?
started off, I had a Pentax, which is what I shot the Jimi Hendrix pictures with. Then that was stolen, and I got an Olympus OM1, which I used for a long time till it developed a light leak.
I love
And
Olympus glass.
yeah, and then I got a Nikon F2 Photomic, which I used for 30 years.
Oh, okay. With the big prism on it that said F on it or
Yes,
something,
it
or
was a real workhorse camera, and you could use it for self-defense too because it was heavy. And that's what I used inside the blimps when I shot for motion pictures and television as well. That camera lasted
so
me through my whole career.
so you said that you could use a camera as a weapon. You're a woman in the industry. Any trouble? Give us a story. Give us one of your scariest moments.
I didn't have a lot of scary moments. I mean, most of the time, people just accepted me, and I didn't have a whole lot of trouble. The scariest moment was probably when I was on my film teacher's film crew for his master's thesis, when we were covering we covered the celebration of the summer solstice in San Francisco, and we covered Monterey Pop, and then we covered the Peace March at Century City. And I was the third unit camera lady shooting 8mm, and we were beaten up by the police. The entire crowd was attacked by the police. It turned into a police riot,
Oh my
and so
God.
that was probably my scariest
So
experience. And
like Anthony Bourdain, you never went into the dark nightclubs in Amsterdam or anything like that and saw all the coke freaks, that kind of shit.
no, I shot lots of concerts though. I didn't hear any of them, but I shot a lot of them.
Oh, great. And what was your who were you working with? Were you working with some of the great producers, or what was your in there? How did you get in there?
I was mostly freelance. At first, I was working with the Underground Press, and then when I met my husband over the formation of a music magazine called Music World, and he became the editor, and I was the photo editor and chief photographer.
Hmm.
And It only lasted for a year, but it was a wonderful experience. We got to put people on the cover that who nobody had ever heard of before, like Tom Waits. And we also, uh, Cameron Crowe worked for us when he was a teenager, before he worked for Rolling Stone.
Wow.
And we took him to meet Graham Parsons, and did had a wonderful afternoon with Graham, who said, stick around because I just met this girl who's terrific, who's coming over this afternoon. And it was Emmylou Harris, who was new to town. She was just getting started. And Graham and Emmylou jammed for the whole afternoon, and I got to photograph that. And then I called them all out onto the porch and took a picture of everybody all together. So it includes Cameron Crowe and Emmylou Harris and Graham Parsons and my husband and the whole band, plus his manager, who burned his body in the desert a few months later when Graham died.
Wow.
That was made into a movie called Grand Theft Parsons, about the way his manager stole his body and set it on fire at Joshua Tree.
But you weren't on that set. You weren't on that set.
No.
No. Amazing. Yeah, we'll get into Carpenter in a minute because you have several books that you've published. We're really proud of your journey and your legacy. In the journey of meeting musicians and great people, tell us one of your favorite stories or people that you've met that still lives on, that you're still excited about, besides all of them.
Well, my husband became the head of publicity for Island Records in the USA during the mid-70s. And part of his job was to introduce reggae and Bob Marley to the American public, because he was a big success in England, but he hadn't made it in the United States yet. And so we spent, over a 2-year period, we spent a lot of time with Bob Marley. He came up to LA, and we had arranged for all of his interviews and spent a lot of time with him. And he didn't mind me just shooting at will. He wasn't crazy about posing, although the only time that he really enjoyed posing was when I shot the cover of High Times magazine with him. And he was completely on board with that.
In a post-production, I'll find that magazine and throw it up, when we're talking about certain things.
Well, if you look in my book on page 115, you will see the cover image that was used for High Times, and you can see that he's really
I got it right here, everybody. We're doing a digital realm here. 115. Here we come, everybody. So, everybody, we're on the Legacy Show, Legends of Photography with Jeff Eichen. Incredibly excited to have a Bob Marley and Jimi Hendrix photographer, lady of the night and the daylight and the light. Here we go. So
that was the High Times cover that he was really happy to pose for.
And if you look, was it the black and white one or the color?
The color.
Okay.
And then if you look on the page before, we brought our 3-year-old son with us. Well, he wasn't quite 3 yet. And that's him in the little yellow Rasta cap. And you can see Bob got a huge kick out of him. And our son Orion learned how to read by the time he was 3, so he could read all the liner notes on reggae albums.
So your son is 50 now.
He's 50 now. He's got that picture on his wall.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful. I think I had Bo Derek on my wall. I think, Well, everybody, we're graced to have Kim Gottlieb-Walker, the photographer extraordinaire of musicians and stars. And tell us another Bob Marley story about maybe Jamaica.
Well, one of the most interesting stories about Jamaica is actually about one of the other whalers, Bunny Whaler, who is an Obeah man, a man with powers. So you don't mess with Bunny. And I asked him if I could take his picture. And I heard this story. He said that another photographer had asked to take his picture. And he said, I don't let dead men take my picture. And the guy died within a couple of weeks. So I figured the fact that
wait, the photographer died?
The photographer died within a couple of weeks. So I figured the fact that he allowed me to photograph him meant that I was going to be around for a while. And There are a couple of other stories about Bunny's powers too. When we first got there, we went to the recording studio where he usually works and asked how to contact him. And they said, oh, just call him. And he said, well, but he doesn't have a phone. How do we call him? And they said, well, go out under the ackee tree in the yard and call him. So we went out into the yard and said, Bunny, we'd love to see you tomorrow. And we came back the next day and he was standing under the tree and he said, you called. And the third story about Bunny is that when Chris Blackwell signed him to Island Records, he wanted a clause in his contract that said that if Chris Blackwell died, that the contract was null and void. And Chris said, well, why do you want that in your contract? And he said, because then I know I can always get out of my contract. So those are the stories about Bunny that I really love.
And what about the sacred sacrament, the herb with the Rastas? Tell us a little bit about.
There was always herb. Everyone was smoking herb, and we smoked with Bob. There were always clouds of smoke around us.
And was it bunkweed those days, or was it super high weed?
Well, none of the weed back then compares to the weed today.
Right. Genetics, right.
But it was okay. It got you there.
I got you there. It got you there. Well, great. And what about the women behind Bob? I don't see very many photographs in your book of the Itals or the
I3s.
I3s. Yeah, the I3s. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about
that. Well, they
that.
were only together when they were performing, so there are some pictures of them performing. Bob was very charismatic, so there were always women fawning over him, and I think his wife was good at kind of intercepting them to protect him a little bit, but he had something like 11 children, so he did appreciate
were they
women.
all musicians? Did they all come in? I mean, we know about Ziggy, and we know about, you know.
A lot of them did. A lot of them did.
And
Ziggy has one of my photos on his wall. It's the double page spread of Bob reclining with the smoke going up.
All right, all right.
With the high on his chest.
What page is that on? Let's see here.
That is on. Let's see. I did have it marked here.
Oh yeah, here's the ladies, everybody. There's the ladies.
Yeah, page 40.
Page 40. Okay, so I'm on page 53, so we go back to page 40. Page 40, where he's at the door? This was page 40.
Oh, pardon me, 46. My eyes are not so good.
Enjoy,
that page 40 is where my husband had just introduced George Harrison to Bob Marley backstage at the Roxy, which was a pretty exciting moment. It was very dark back there, and I had a flash on my camera that was run on batteries that were dying. And so it was about 30 seconds between flashes, and it was only a 2-minute meeting.
Oh my God.
So it was
very,
very frustrating, because here are two legends meeting each other, and I had to wait 30 seconds between shots. So I only got 3 shots altogether, but that's one of them. Bob was very happy to meet George.
So Krishna and Jah Rastafari. So Krishna.
But page 46 is that's the picture that Ziggy has on his wall. And that's Bob between interviews in West Hollywood.
Amazing. Well, I really approve of your framing, your lighting, and it's, at a certain point we do become we get our style after shooting for so many years, and your style is very intuitive. It seems like it just seems very natural. It's not corner to corner and straight on like some of the classic studio. For me, your photography is just so relaxed.
Well, I always use natural light, and I was fortunate that when I was doing interviews, they would let me set up where people would sit so that I could put my subjects opposite a window, opposite a natural light source.
Mm-hmm.
And then I knew that the lighting would be beautiful and I could just focus on waiting for the right moments. I consider myself a decisive moment photographer, Cartier-Bresson. Um,
Bresson, he said that, yeah,
yeah, because I wait for a moment that I think is significant, that's worth preserving. I don't,
you spoke earlier about not rapid fire and that
right.
that your intuition got the right shot. When I interviewed Pep Williams the other day, he's also a Los Angeles photographer and an ex-Thrasher skateboarder. And Christie's sells his photography of tattooed, beautiful humans. And he said he's a representative for Hasselblad and Leica, and he's a great human. And I had him on another episode, and he said, I go in to a photo shoot, I shoot 3 shots, and I leave. I mean, not 20, not 12, or smile, not smiles, this or that. And I couldn't believe it that that's what he said. And his photography is brilliant and beautiful. He comes and goes.
I'll give you another example of 3 shots. Turn to page 79, 75. We were in Bob's house, and I pasted some cardboards on the wall in the colors of the Ethiopian flag and asked him to stand in front of it because I figured it would come in handy for magazine covers or whatever. And, reluctantly, because he didn't like to pose, he got in front of the 3 cardboards, and that's the middle picture, the serious one. And then I stuck my head out from behind the camera and I said, a lot of people who are going to see these pictures are people who already love you. And that's how I got the 2 smiling ones.
Oh, great. And we were discussing earlier a little bit about uh when you do tarot, you pull 3 cards. You pull a past, a present, and a future card. Um, right now they're coming out with a Bob Marley movie. Um,
Mhm.
Tell us about, have you seen it? Were you involved with that at all? Tell us a little bit about your take and how it finally happened.
Well, I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm really looking forward to it. They did interview my husband at great length about it
Okay.
because he was with Bob the weekend that he was shot, and was one of the few people encouraging Bob to go ahead and he was shot on Friday and went up into the hills, and my husband was with him. And he was one of the few people encouraging him to go ahead and do the show on Sunday because almost all the Rasta elders were telling him not to do it, to stay in the mountains, to stay safe. And
That was
Bob was,
Jamaica. That was
and that
Jamaica.
was in Jamaica, yeah.
Okay.
And I wasn't with Jeff on that trip, but uh, I I was interviewed for the very extensive documentary series that Ziggy did about his dad, and I appear several times in that documentary. But Jeffrey was with him that whole weekend, and Bob said, "Well, if I had a machine gun, I'd do it." And Jeffrey said, "Your guitar is your machine gun. If you don't perform, then the gunmen have won." And at the last minute, Bob decided to do the concert, and they all went down together to the stadium.
And that was just days after he was shot?
Yeah, it was shot on Friday. The performance was Sunday.
Wow, wow, wow. And how many times were you on stage with Bob, or did you get to see him play?
I got to see him play many times
Okay.
because when he came down to LA, he performed on the Manhattan Transfer Show, and I photographed him there. And he performed in Santa Barbara, and I photographed him there. And he
That was the
performed,
outside, very famous show that
yeah,
he did.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he performed
I
at the
knew about that, but I didn't get there.
Roxy, and then down in Jamaica, um, I shot the concert that where Stevie Wonder performed with him,
Oh, wow.
but they were only in the same frame once. I have one frame of them together because they were on opposite ends of the stage for the whole thing. So there was only literally one picture of the two of them
Let's
perform.
step into Peter Tosh for a minute.
Oh, Peter, I adored Peter, absolutely adored Peter. He was so animated. and loved to tell stories and use wordplay. And so photographing him was just a joy because he was constantly changing and, so animated. And now his daughter, who was only 5 years old when he died, is in charge of his estate. And, Peter said, legalize it and I will advertise it. So she's using my photos of Peter in that endeavor.
Well, um, again, everybody, this is the Legacy Show, Legends of Photography. We're with Kim Gottlieb and Walker, and we're in Rasta land right now. It's so beautiful. I put the Rasta colors behind my set today on purpose. I'm wearing my hemp tie. It says One World on it and One Love. We need medicine through music. We need medicine through photography, everybody. The greats, the masters, you are the master. We are the masters. And it's my intention to share with the world the classic photographers and their legacy. What do you consider your legacy?
Preserving moments that people will treasure. There are so many pictures of people who are now gone, and I've had people who've looked at my Bob Marley book and said it's like seeing those people alive again. So it has an impact on people's lives.
It's our journal.
Yeah. And as I said, I think of myself as a historian more than an artist. I think of myself as a historian. And I feel very lucky that I can choose which moments I want to preserve for history, that I'll want people to remember.
The precise moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we're really blessed to have stories. Let's go into I don't even have any cheat sheets today, but I've done this so many times that I want to hear about who influenced you as other photographers in the early days, or was it a teacher from grade school that to make you different and to follow your dream? Where was that aha moment?
That all came from my parents. I had
Ah,
tremendously supportive parents. And as I said, my mother taught me about light and gave me her camera. And and in terms of other photographers, I think Cartier-Bresson is probably the biggest influence, simply because I ascribe to the same philosophy of capturing a decisive moment, waiting for that decisive moment.
right. Each photographer of the greats had their idioms, their one-liners. Minor White said, "Is it a mirror or a window?"
Hmm.
That photograph, and Ansel said, pre-visualize, do the zone system. What's you're going to be seeing after you take that shot on the wall, and Brett Weston, I got to meet. He was lived by my dad in Carmel, and he was always about the abstract. And he says, if it ain't sharp, don't shoot it, Jeffrey. He shot a Rolly SL66. Did you ever shoot medium format?
No, no, 35 millimeter all the way.
And were you a Kodak or an Ilford film person?
Kodak. I usually used Tri-X pushed a long way because most of the places where I shot, the light levels were really low.
You pushed it to 3200?
Sometimes, usually 2400, but
And
there were times I had to push it to
did
3200.
you have Nikkor reels? Did you shake and bake?
No, I didn't do my own darkroom work.
Okay. But tell us about your darkroom experience.
I had one job where I was working for the Underground Press. They hired me because they loved my portfolio. And they put me to work in a darkroom that was about 3 feet by 5 feet. So, and I was working there for, I don't know, 60 hours a week, just breathing those chemicals. And they didn't let me shoot anything. I was printing other people's work. And I'm not very good in the darkroom, the trial and error and all of that. That's not the part of photography I love. The part of photography I love is capturing the moment. And so I didn't last very long at that job. I couldn't take it anymore. So the one thing that I love about digital is Photoshop, and the fact that you can take negatives that you shot 40 years ago and scan them and find the details in them that you might have missed on a proof sheet and be able to get beautiful prints out of them. And yeah, and as an example of that, in the Bob Marley book, there's some pictures of Peter Tosh doing kung fu on a dock. And Peter had very dark skin, and he's wearing a black G, and he's against a sky. And so when I got the proof sheets back, I thought all I had were silhouettes. And then 30 years later, I scanned the negatives and discovered that there were details in his
You could
face.
open up the shadows.
And I could open up the shadows, and it produced these beautiful photos of him, not just doing the kung fu, but you can see the expression on his face, and you can see the clouds in the sky behind him. And so that was lovely. And to try to do that in a dark room, it would have taken days of trial and error. So that's my favorite part of digital, is the fact that you can uh, bring out everything that's in the photos that you shot.
My teacher at the University of Oregon, he was friends with Brett Weston, and Brett told me, he said, my son to me, I was 16, 17, graduating from Newport Harbor High School, and he said, I'm going to send you to my best friend, Bernard Freemesser, at the University of Oregon. And so I went there to school to learn photography, or to further my exploration. And we had selenium toner, okay, in a back room that had a big fan and everything. And he says, don't breathe the selenium toner, Jeffrey, or to our students. And my teacher passed away from the darkroom chemicals, hours upon hours, and he got a brain tumor and left the planet, not before he didn't do his own legacy and do beautiful imagery, but it's just such a blessing right now. I agree with you, to be dry and to utilize it in a excellent way. What I'm thinking about, everybody, this is Jeff Eichen with the Legacy / Legends of Photography show today with Kim Gottlieb, um, former and current photographer of light and the stars and musicians. What I want to do is maybe have one more trip. Maybe we'll do it to Jamaica or get on a big schooner. One of my friends has a schooner here with giant sails, but invite some of us from our generation and do our last film shoot. Bring film cameras again and shoot again, with film, because there's still labs that are processing film. It's not Paris photo anymore. Yeah. Remember Paris?
No, I never use them, but
The
I know it's the labs are fewer and farther between.
What was your lab that you used in Hollywood?
I used Richard Photo Lab.
Richards. Was that on Highland or?
It was on Selma, I believe, in Hollywood.
Wow, I
And
never
he
touched
did.
Richard. I use Tom's and I use Paris, you know. Well, everybody, it's really a blessing to walk through and to remember, the days of wine and roses with the cameras. We're digital now. Um, and they said in a my friend from Boston sent me an article from the New York Times, and I read this article on AI. Okay. And it said that and it was a conversation with other photographers, um, and how they were scared that AI is the death of photography. Well, that's what they said when photography was invented in the 1800s. It was the death to painting. Okay. And then we got Andy Warhol, and we got, um, who was the guy that did the melting clocks, the watches. Uh,
Dali.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so it wasn't the death to painting photography. There was an evolution, there was allowance, and then we picked up the camera. And yet, with photography in the art world being, such a struggle for us to make it all these years, when we went digital, several years back, Photoshop One, they thought that that was the death to photography, but it wasn't. So we're embracing it. And now I am embracing AI as so I don't lose my momentum and the flow of the now. What do you think about AI?
Well, now that I've become a novelist, I'm very wary of it.
Oh, with the strike.
A lot of people are thinking they can just write a book and just use AI,
Chat,
and
chat.
you can't. There's a human element that's missing. So
Totally.
I'm very wary of it. I've seen beautiful things that people can create with it, but it has to be used judiciously. And for writing, it's fine for prompts, but you can't let it write for you.
So in classic photography, what about cropping?
Um, I I sometimes do some cropping, but it doesn't change the essence of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
It just increases the emphasis in it.
And did your husband ever pick up the camera with you or photograph you photographing?
No, no, my husband and I were a team. With He was the writer and I was the photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been a wonderful partnership. We had our 50th anniversary last year.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. Congratulations. Tell us a little bit about your professional career and using the blimp. I was
Well,
there. I was there. I saw you use a blimp. I got a blimp once. I rented one and from Sammy's, and that was an amazing. Oh, there it is. I wanted
this is the
that to
blimp.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
For people who are not familiar with a blimp,
tell us
it's
what it does. What?
it's
Why blimp?
it's basically a soundproof casing, and you put your camera inside. It's got a motor drive, and the camera goes inside, and you can trigger it. You can focus because this grabs the lens,
Mm-hmm.
and you can release the shutter from either side. And you have to use it on a movie or TV set because it makes your camera silent. Now with digital, you can have a silent camera, so you don't really need a blimp. But
Because of
then,
the mirror, correct?
yeah, well, yeah, the click, you'd hear the click. And I was very fortunate that when I shot Halloween, which was the first feature I ever worked on that was actually released, John Carpenter understood the value of the stills. And so he always made sure that I had the opportunity to get the shots that I wanted. And there were a couple of occasions where the important shot was not accessible to me because um, the movie camera was taking up the whole space that would get that shot. And so sometimes John would say, after they got it in the can, he would say, okay, pull the camera out and now do it again for Kim. And you very rarely find a director who values the stills enough to do that for the still photographer.
So he would slow down the production to get the right still.
He would give me an extra 30 seconds all on my own to get the shot that I wanted.
And what about group shots? Did you ever, when you were on set, did you at the end of the day do group portraits, like get everybody together, or was that too gimmicky?
Oh, at the end of every production, I always did a cast and crew shot.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
and working on the John Carpenter films was wonderful training for that, because we started off with a little crew of about 20 people. And for each film, the cast and crew grew. And by the time I was working on television, when I worked on Cheers for 9 years. And I would do the cast and crew picture at the end of each season. And that would be about 100 people. And I would make sure that
Wow.
every single person could be seen clearly, because every single person is important on a crew.
And
And I would,
my heart and condolences for Kirsty, you know. Yeah,
yeah,
there we go.
but I would have the grips bring out ladders and planks to put between the rungs of the ladders to get lots of levels, and chairs and people on the ground. And so I wouldn't shoot the picture until every single person was clearly visible. And
And
then I'd put the
some people would lay down and in the
right.
front. Right,
And
right.
I'd put the shutter on delay, and I'd run in and get in the picture myself.
Oh,
But
nice.
and that's what led to me also working on Family Ties, because they saw the cast and crew pictures I did for Cheers, and they invited me to shoot Family Ties. So I ended up working on Family Ties for 5 years, which was also a
That
fabulous
was when there was
experience.
budgets, right? in the day, in the day.
Well, at that
Well,
time, still photographers were a required part of staffing for all
right,
union productions.
right. Well, God bless Cheers. I mean, that's in my blood, you know. So,
And getting into the union was a huge step in my career. And I almost didn't get in because I broke my arm in 3 places before I got my 30th day that I needed to get into the union. And so I shot with my arm in a cast and on pain medication so that I could get my 30th day and get in.
oh my God, oh my God. So tell us a little bit about meeting John. And is John still with us? Is he
Oh,
still alive?
yes. He just had his 76th birthday, I think.
Oh, he's a young baby. He's a young baby. And tell us about having dinner with John or talking about post production.
Well, um, the way I met John was through Deborah Hill, the producer. And I met Deborah because the very first project that I shot, first movie that I shot, was so terrible it was never even released. But she was the script supervisor on it, and Dean Cundy was the director of photography on it. And so when she went on to write and produce Halloween with John, she brought onto the production the people she had met in the previous production who she thought were good.
Wasn't there
So
like 8 or 10 Halloweens?
not that I shot. I shot the first and second.
Okay.
Um,
Always the best, the first ones.
yeah, well, and it's really funny that it started that whole rash of slasher movies because there is no blood in the first Halloween. It is shot like a Hitchcock film. It is all about the suspense. It's not about gore.
Right.
And it was a blast working on it, but I didn't have blimps at the time. So that was one of the reasons why John would sometimes have them do something again for me, so because I couldn't click if they were doing a quiet dialogue scene because they would hear me. So after Halloween, I got my blimps, I got
You
everything.
mean you never went Leica during the day with a
No,
with a curtain?
couldn't afford it.
Oh my God.
It was a stretch for the $800 to get my Nikon body, but
Right.
but it lasted me for 40 years. So
Oh yeah, I could reach around and find my knicker mat. I still have it, and I remember the night that the it was a Halloween night actually in Silver Lake, and we were making marijuana pizza, and we were all getting high, and the Rajneeshers were all dancing in the living room in a house in Silver Lake, and they gave me a Nicromat and they said, "Here, Jeffrey," because everybody was getting super high from the butter we made, and they were all dancing, and it was Halloween night, and I remember this night, and they handed me this camera with the red strap, still got it, and they said, "You are now Jeff I Can Imagine Photography," and that's on my business card still. I can imagine.
nice. But
So
before we even started shooting Halloween, they did a day when they were doing some wardrobe tests and stuff, and they had me come over, and I took the 3 girls who were the main characters, and took them out onto the steps of the bungalow and just shot a bunch of pictures of the 3 of them together, and that was the beginning of the production. And
and
then and then after that, I sort of became part of his filmmaking family, John's filmmaking family. And the next thing we shot was The Fog, and we were going to be going on location. And
who was in the fog? Who was in the fog?
The Fog had
It wasn't Jack.
Adrienne Barbeau
Okay.
and Jamie Lee Curtis and Tommy Atkins and Hal Holbrook. And uh, and the producers said that they wanted me to shoot Ektachrome. And I had never shot Ektachrome before without it turning out overexposed and blue. So I was worried. So I went into the lab and I said, "What is the secret to shooting Ektachrome?" And they said, "Don't take reflective light readings, take incident light readings." So I got um, a light meter, like the kind cinematographers use that have the little globe on it, the little
Has
white
a
globe.
little white globe on it,
Right.
right?
And you hold it near the person you're going to shoot so that you're reading what the light is that's falling on them, not what's being reflected back, but what light is falling on them. And once
Ah,
I started doing that, I got perfect Ektachrome every time. That's what made the
Wow.
difference. So for all of you who are experimenting with Ektachrome, get yourself a light meter and do incident readings instead of reflective readings, and you will get beautiful pictures.
I bet they're still making Ektachrome film, you know.
I don't know.
And how have you embraced digital? What's your time on the Photoshop? How are you enjoying that?
Now I only shoot for love.
Hmm.
I'll shoot, when we have parties, I'll get the different family groups together and do family portraits for them, because I know those are things that are going to be treasured forever. And nothing is worth shooting for me unless it's going to be treasured by somebody. So that's the only digital shooting I do. And I do use Photoshop to process and print my art prints, but it's all from the original negatives that have been, scanned. Um,
And do you do your own printing or do you have a printer?
I can print up to 17 by 22. That's the largest that I can print myself.
And do you do Epson or Canon?
I shoot Canon digitally.
No, 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 for Epson for your printing.
And for printing Epson, yeah, I have oh, it's the hang on,
3800,
the 3880
3880.
Epson Pro. Yeah, it's the Epson Pro 3880.
I have a 4800 that's about 15 years old. And guess what? I cleaned my heads and I've been printing for the last couple months incredibly. I just enjoy it so much watching the heads go by and having it come out and even the black and whites are beautiful, you know. What's your favorite paper?
I like to use ultra premium. It's Epson Ultra Premium Luster.
And does that have a sheen to it or a
It's
texture?
like halfway between matte and glossy, so it has a little bit of a sheen, but not too much. It's just I like the richness of the way the photos turn out.
And does your printer, or do you prefer printing on sheets or on roll?
Individual sheets
Oh,
of
individual sheets.
paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I print on rolls because my printer, it won't center anything, and I've been tech supporting it so much. The digital world, it takes a lot of time until you get it, but it's a blessing. So everybody, remember, we're on the Legends of Photography, and we're going through and talking about other photographers that we've graced, people that we've met, and Netflix, we're coming for you. We want to do a series. Maybe we'll get Annie Leibovitz. Maybe we'll get, some incredible,
I photographed Annie Leibovitz.
yay. And maybe we'll get some elders before they leave the planet. And it'd be fun to take the show on the road actually, and to go sit with some people or some photographers in Jamaica or wherever. So we're talking about the usual suspects with Kim Gottlieb-Walker and her husband. They were a team, and I'm blessed to know more and more about your legacy. And I promise we'll do a follow-up, and we'll find some other stories to tell, and we'll do an edit on this, a post-production edit, and I will, and with your blessings, and we'll get a short version to Netflix or Amazon or Apple, and we'll see who wants to bite, because it needs to be told, the stories that you just told us. It's been so fun, everybody, to be in the dark room or the light room with Kim Gottlieb-Walker today. And so we're at the top of the hour, everybody. I like to keep it to an hour. Kim, tell us a little bit about your final words, what you would inspire the children that are coming up right now. There's no more photography school in Santa Barbara. Tell us about how you would talk to the children and inspire them to either become professional or do it because they love it. Tell us your thoughts.
I would tell them history is happening every day, and you are a witness to it, and you can document it. take your camera if there's a demonstration going on, if there are people who are speaking, uh, political people, just start documenting the world around you, start documenting those things. And don't shoot a million shots of the same thing. Wait for shots that are significant. Um, I worry about people shooting digitally because the archiving changes like every year. There are different ways to try and save what you've shot. My negatives from back in the 1970s are still just as good today as they were back then. Whereas the first things I shot digitally, I wouldn't even know where to find them now. So make sure that you back everything up if you're shooting digitally in several ways, so that you can always access it again. And just get out there and do it. You'll learn by doing. And try shooting in black and white, because you'll really start to notice the differences in light and how it reflects off people's eyes and how it reflects off their bone structure. And um, just get out there and do it. Use the people you love as models and practice doing portraits with them. There are lots of things you can do to get good at it.
Fantastic. So you're teaching right now to the children. You're giving them an assignment. Photograph your family, everybody. Photograph your animals, photograph the world around you, and make a difference. We're with King Gottlieb, everybody, Walker, and we're so blessed to have some stories of the past, present, and future. What's next for you?
Well, I've written 2 novels, and one of them is actually based on my early career as a photographer, but reimagined as a romance novel because that made it much more fun to write.
Ah,
And my agent is looking for the right publisher for it now. It's called Lenswoman. Who knows if it'll change if a publisher decides to publish it, but you can see my work at lenswoman.com, and that gives a little overview of my career. And then I have a new writing website, and it's called therenaissancewoman.net. And because one of my novels is set in the late 15th century, I wrote it during the pandemic and literally spent the whole pandemic in the late 15th century. And it was really a wonderful experience for me. I didn't have to go anywhere. I could just focus on writing the book.
I want to be part of that movie. That'll be a great movie. So tell us, as we wrap it up here, tell us about women photographers, Imogene, tell us about Cindy Sherman. I mean, who inspired you, or that you got to meet or photograph, that yanks your chain in photography, women photographers.
Well, the thing about being a photographer is that it's kind of a solo job. You don't come in contact with a lot of other still photographers. When you're working on a movie set, you're the only still photographer on the movie set. When you're shooting concerts, there may be other photographers there, but you don't really have much interaction with them. So mostly the photographers I know are photographers who are in the Cinematographers Guild, because I represented them on the National Executive Board of the Cinematographers Guild for about 30 years. So I know quite a few still photographers who shoot movies and television. But I was one of the first women accepted into the Cinematographers Guild. There weren't a lot of us back then. And now there are women DPs and camera operators and a lot of still photographers. So it has evolved and improved. I wasn't influenced a lot by other still photographers. I was just working on my own, and it evolved in its own way organically.
And so if you could choose a woman photographer to share with our public, that you love, give us a name.
Oh, well, I love Annie Leibovitz because her photos are always amusing and imaginative, and it's a totally different kind of shooting than what I do, because she sets everything up. She does lighting. She has specific ideas for what she wants to do with the subjects, and she kind of imposes her vision on them that way. And it's always very imaginatively done and beautifully done. But
John and Yoko in the milk bath.
yeah, yeah, it's her work is always fascinating and beautiful, but it's kind of the opposite of what I do, since I'm working with natural light and things as they're actually happening in the real world. It's not, I don't manipulate my subjects in any way.
Right. Well, she's doing the setup and you're doing the
Mhm.
live moment. Any final words?
I've just enjoyed my life so much. I've had so many wonderful experiences, and I'm just grateful for the life I've had.
Well, we're with photographer Kim Gottlieb-Walker, everybody, and she got to meet some of the greatest, and more to come, I believe. And
Well,
yeah,
I did want to do one more photo book besides the Bob Marley book and the John Carpenter book. I wanted to do one that was everything that I shot between 1964 and 1974, which was all, musicians, popular culture. And I pitched it to my publisher, and they said, "Oh, nobody's going to be interested in the 60s and 70s," which I think is insane. I think it's the most popular decade of the 20th century.
we were
And
peaceniks. We were peaceniks.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it was a wonderful time. And I think people are very interested in it. I think the success of Daisy Jones and the Six proves that people are interested in that time period. So I'm still planning to do a book that will be all of the musicians and popular culture figures that I shot during that time.
Well, bless you so much, and it's really, really an honor to open the door in 24 with you, and to join forces to photograph some of your other photographer friends and acquaintances. I can't wait to do some editing on this. Take me a little while, but we're not in a hurry. Except for, they say as you get older, people are leaving the planet. So I want to get some of the elders in our, you know, in the can, man. You know,
I'm turning 77 next month, so got to make the
you
most of every minute.
you wear it well. You wear it well. Well, my girlfriend, her name is Kim, and she's 72, and so we love her shoes. She's a shoe hound. So all you 70 ladies that are 70, keep your nourishment up. Keep walking every day and keep your heart open through your art. We're with photographer Kim Gottlieb-Walker today on Legends of Photography, and Netflix, Apple, and Amazon. We're going to figure out how to do more and to monetize this so we can get a series going. And thank you, Kim. It's been a pleasure and a blessing. We'll chat later about this and that and other things and follow up. And you do have your own recording of this, correct?
I hope so.
Yeah. And if not, we'll Dropbox you one, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to share our screen again. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It was really, really a blessing. It's out of my norm, but back into my classic photography, which is my heart, which is where I come from. I have to eat and breathe photography every day because that's just who I am and how it came to me in life. And so say hello to my sister, say hello to my girlfriend, say hello to all the dogs out there because they know, the animals know, the dog knows. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you, and thank you, Kim. We'll talk to you on the other side. Okay, feel the light, everybody. That's what my teacher said. So feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. So here we go. Gottlieb-Walker, everybody, on the Legends of Photography with Jeff Eichen. We're so blessed to be bringing back the photographers and honoring them and their legacy. Jeff Eichen, I'm out of here. It's been a great afternoon with Kim. Thank you, Kim, so much for joining us. And there she is again. So, final words.
I'm just happy to still be here.
Hey, and feel the light, everybody. It's Jeff Eichen. That's my favorite line. Feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. Go out and get it. Oh wait, I got a question for you. Did you hear that Death Valley got so much rain this year that there were like rivers and pools and fauna, like flowers that they never had before?
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna come down for it. I mean, when Maui had the volcano go or no, Big Island, I wanted to go so bad because I'm a landscape photographer. I love that shit, that stuff. So, but I
I
never,
I, I only shoot people.
there you go. There you go. Well, I'll share some of my people with you soon. I went around, I was in Ecuador and with my father in Guatemala, and I photographed the shamans for a while.
Mm.
And so that was really beautiful with their smoke and on the pyramids. So I'll share that with you sometime soon. And we're gonna take out of here and say blessings, everybody. Feel the light. Jeff Eichen, Kim, Bob Marley, John Carpenter. You got it. You got it. We're in the camp.